Welcome to Pharmacology Insights, where we break down complex pharmacology into simple, easy-to-understand concepts. Millions of people take a statin to lower their cholesterol every day. And for plenty of them, it still isn't enough. Their LDL, the bad cholesterol, stays too high to properly protect their heart. For those tougher cases, doctors already have a powerful backup option. A class of drugs called PCSK9 inhibitors. They're some of the most effective cholesterol-lowering drugs ever developed. But until recently, the only way to take one has been a needle. An injection every 2 to 4 weeks, for life. Then, in July 2026, the FDA approved a pill that does the exact same job. That pill is Enlicitide, sold under the brand name Lipfendra. In this video, we'll talk about what PCSK9 actually is, and how blocking it lowers your cholesterol, the chemistry trick that gets a fragile peptide through your gut wall, and the trial numbers that got Enlicitide approved. Hypercholesterolemia means too much LDL cholesterol. The bad kind, in your blood. Extra LDL burrows into artery walls, gets oxidized, and sets off inflammation that builds plaque. Over years, that plaque narrows and stiffens arteries. It's the direct cause behind heart attacks, strokes, and peripheral artery disease. Together, these cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death worldwide. Most cases are shaped by diet, weight, and genetics working together. But some people inherit it. Familial hypercholesterolemia is caused by mutations in genes like LDLR, ApoB, or PCSK9 itself. The heterozygous form affects roughly 1 in 250 to 300 people. And it drives dangerously high LDL from birth. Whatever the cause, one rule holds, proven over decades. Lower LDL, and you lower cardiovascular risk. A landmark meta-analysis of statin trial found a 22% drop in cardiovascular disease events for every 1 mol per liter reduction in LDL cholesterol. Statins are first line. They slow cholesterol production in the liver, which triggers liver cells to put more LDL receptors on their surface. Receptors that clear LDL from the blood. Cheap and well-studied, but not everyone tolerates them or hits target on statins alone. Ezetimibe and bempedoic acid help further, but only modestly. The biggest jump in power comes from blocking PCSK9, one of the most important regulators of cholesterol clearance in the body. Let's first understand the normal physiology. LDL cholesterol circulates in the bloodstream packaged inside LDL particles. The liver, specifically liver cells called hepatocytes, play the central role in clearing these particles. On their surface, hepatocytes express LDL receptors. These receptors bind LDL particles and pull them into the cell through a process called endocytosis. Once inside the cell, LDL particle is sent to lysosomes and broken down. The LDL receptor is normally recycled back to the cell surface. This recycling allows a single LDL receptor to clear hundreds of LDL particles over its lifetime. Efficient LDL receptor recycling is therefore essential for maintaining low plasma LDL cholesterol levels. Now, enter PCSK9. Or proprotein convertase subtilisin, Cursin type 9. It is a protein produced primarily by the liver and released into the bloodstream. Its role is to regulate how many LDL receptors remains available on the surface. Here's what happens. PCSK9 binds to the LDL receptor on the hepatocyte surface. When the LDL receptor, PCSK9 complex is pulled inside the cell, The receptor is sent to the lysosome. Instead of being recycled, it is destroyed. The consequences are straightforward. Fewer LDL receptors on the liver. Less LDL cleared from the blood. And higher circulating LDL cholesterol as a result. PCSK9, in effect, acts as a brake on the liver's ability to clear cholesterol. And that's where Enlicitide comes in. Enlicitide binds PCSK9 in the bloodstream and prevents it from interacting with LDL receptors. This sets off a clear cascade. PCSK9 can no longer escort LDL receptors to lysosomal degradation. LDL receptors recycle normally back to the hepatocyte surface. The number of functional LDL receptors on the liver increases. Hepatic uptake of LDL cholesterol rises. And plasma LDL cholesterol levels fall significantly. Unlike statin, Enlicitide does not interfere cholesterol synthesis. It works entirely by rescuing LDL receptors from destruction. This class of drug isn't new. PCSK9 inhibition has been possible for a decade now. However, alirocumab and evolocumab are injectables. More recently, an injectable siRNA drug, inclisiran, joined them. Every one of them needs a needle. That's the gap Enlicitide was built to close. Those earlier drugs are monoclonal antibodies. Antibodies work because they're big, precisely folded proteins that grip a target with total selectivity. But that's exactly why you can't swallow one. It's still a chain of amino acids. So your gut's enzymes cut it apart like any other protein you eat. And even a fragment that survived would be far too large to cross into your blood. Merck's answer was a middle path. A macrocyclic peptide. A ring-shaped chain of amino acids. Small enough to consider swallowing, but rigid enough to bind almost like an antibody would. But a ring-shaped peptide still can't slip through intestinal cells the way a small greasy molecule can. Left alone, almost none of a swallowed dose would ever reach the bloodstream. Enlicitide is formulated as a salt, enlicitide decanoate, for stability. But getting it into your blood takes something else. It's paired with sodium caprate, a medium-chain fatty acid permeation enhancer. This pairing opens a short-lived gap, just wide enough for the peptide to slip between cells into the blood. Even so, only about 1% of each dose reaches the bloodstream. That sounds like nothing. But Enlicitide is so potent, and lingers in the blood so long. Its half-life runs into days. This sliver is enough to keep PCSK9 blocked with one pill a day. Because absorption depends on that brief gut window, food gets in the way. Taking the pill after a meal cuts absorption roughly in half. That's why Lipfendra is taken first thing in the morning, on an empty stomach, with water, black coffee, or plain tea. And why you wait at least 30 minutes before eating anything else. Enlicitide's approval rested on two phase 3 clinical studies. Coral Reef Lipids Trial and Coral Reef Heterozygous Familial Hypercholesterolemia Trial. The Coral Reef Lipids Trial enrolled almost 2,900 adults with hypercholesterolemia, most already on a statin, who needed further LDL lowering. They were randomized 2-to-1 to Enlicitide or placebo for a year. At 24 weeks, LDL fell 57% with Enlicitide and rose 3% with placebo. That is a 56-point gap. The trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine earlier this year, also found the LDL cholesterol lowering effect held up over time, with the placebo-adjusted reduction at 47.6 percentage points at week 52. The coral reef heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia trial tested about 300 patients with the inherited form. A more difficult population, since their LDL receptors are already faulty from birth. Enlicitide still cut LDL by 59% versus placebo. That matters. Enlicitide doesn't fix the mutation or add new receptors. It just stops whatever functional receptors these patients have left from being destroyed. And that alone moved LDL almost as far as in patients with normal receptor genetics. On safety, coral reef lipids looked just like placebo. In the heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia trial, diarrhea showed up in 7% of enlicitide patients versus 2% on placebo. Dizziness in 9% of patients on enlicitide versus 4% on placebo. Neither gap was statistically significant, and dropout rates from side effects were similar in both arms. One trial is still running. The coral reef outcomes, with more than 14,500 patients. This study is testing whether the LDL drops actually prevent heart attacks and strokes. So where does enlicitide sit? It's approved, alongside diet and exercise, for adults with hypercholesterolemia, including heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia, who need more LDL lowering on top of a statin. Its real contribution isn't a new biological trick. It's access to a mechanism that already works. Take away the needle, and you likely take away the reason a lot of patients and doctors were reaching for this class less often than they should. 3 things worth watching. The fasting rule is a real ask. Stricter than a once-monthly injection. Long-term outcomes data is still years away. And price and insurance coverage will decide how fast it actually reaches patients. Enlicitide is worth remembering for one idea. Sometimes the breakthrough isn't a new target. It's solving delivery for a target everyone already knew was worth hitting. Same PCSK9 biology, and same receptor pharmacology. Just a smarter way in. And that's it for today's pharmacology video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more pharmacology content.